Yeah.
Yes,
Beautiful.
beautiful. Welcome, everybody, to a beautiful day and a
Beautiful.
beautiful episode of the Jared Cast. This time with two Jareds.
Wow.
If you only started tuning in for the past like 4 weeks or so, this show is actually we got two of us. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. My name is Jared Ankanan, and back from his Euro trip is Jared Lombardo, my
Hello,
co-host,
hello.
co-producer. How you doing, my friend?
I am good. I did not miss America, but it's good to be back. It's good to have the routine and the freedom. but I'm I'm doing good. Spent too damn long on the road. But most importantly, it felt great to be back in a movie theater, man. I missed it. We went to one. We saw Nope because it was the only thing in English. They were showing Claire Denis' new movie, and I was like, that would be tight. I could see it in France, and it was all in French. And I was like, I was tempted to do it anyways, but I had to pass. So it felt great to be back in a movie theater, and it feels great to be back here with my boy.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, yeah, man. I I've always wondered what it's like to watch movies, and because I watched one movie in Germany, and
Mm.
it was in German, no subtitles, and I ended up really liking it. But then I saw it again in English, and I was like, "This is a bad movie." Um,
What movie was it? Do you remember?
yeah, I just don't remember the title because it's the second movie in the Divergent series.
Oh, okay. Well.
So, because it's Divergent, and then I know the last one is Allegiant, because that one was the
Mhm.
one that made the news for getting canceled. Um, but I don't remember what the second one's called.
I could not tell you.
But yeah, the second movie in the Divergent series. Uh,
Okay.
I can't say. I recommend watching it in another language because it's so much more
it's
enjoyable.
it's sad when that makes it better.
Yeah, yeah. But no, yeah, I've always wanted to see a French movie in France, just for the heritage, for our
Yeah.
shared heritage. But I don't know, we'll see.
Mhm.
Um, I yeah, it's been interesting. Because
Yeah.
we've been breaking the show's format for the past few weeks, but now we're going to go back sort of to original format and talk
Yeah.
about the film Pearl.
Ooh.
Uh, which was an interesting surprise to me, at
Yeah.
least in the cinema, because I was not very excited to see it because I had middle feelings about X. To me,
Hmm.
X didn't really do it for me. But yeah, I went into this one with with an interesting set of expectations. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. That's kind of why I picked it because you asked what I wanted to do, and you took Barbarian off the table from me. So I was like, he was very lukewarm on X. So and I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was a nice genre film that I had a good time with. The kills were very disappointing though. And so I was like, let's see Pearl. But you're gonna have to wait to hear our thoughts on it because we got some bitness to take care of first. Top
We do.
fives. It's not something that disappeared in my absence. But it's something that I'm excited to return to, and we're returning with a very topical one: movies, uh, or a TV show. If you're looking at my list because I cheated, um, about about the pursuit of fame and those obsessed with fame,
Woo.
and just fame in general, which is always, I don't know, it's always cool to see that headspace and the lengths it drives characters to. It's a big thing in X. It's a huge thing in Pearl. So I'm very excited. But I'm more excited to see your list because I struggled with this one. So why don't you start us off with your number five?
My number five is the only film I like, directed by Rob Marshall. Uh, no, no shade against the man. He does what he does. He sticks to his guns, and he makes millions of people laugh and cry and enjoy themselves in a movie theater. But I'm not one of them. And so I have a lot of reservations going into The Little Mermaid. Not because of Halle Bailey. I think she's a wonderful talent, a wonderful singer, and I'm excited to see her play Ariel. But I'm not excited to see Rob Marshall make everything look blue. Because that's what he did in Into the Woods, and now I hate Into the Woods. So, but anyway, Rob Marshall directed Chicago, which is one of my favorite uh, uh, movie musicals. I think it's one of the few movie musicals that's actually better than the stage version. I've seen bootlegs of the stage version, and what makes Chicago interesting is that it is about these horrible women who kill people and are famous, and they revel in the fame that they get in the press from the scandal and from these like sexual murderous scandals. And this film won Best Picture for a reason. It's very, very good. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger give excellent performances. Same with Richard Gere. And Richard Gere plays their lawyer, who is both trying to get them more famous and trying to get them like the best sentence possible. And yeah, it's a very, very crazy movie. And it makes it very clear that in this weird world of fame and anti heroines and celebrating these women who are not good people. The real villain, in a world where everybody's a villain in Chicago, the real villain is Chicago. It's the audience. And they even say, we couldn't have done it without you in the film. And I love that so much. So I got to go with Chicago for people desperate for fame.
Yeah, I still have never seen Chicago, the stage or screen version, which was honestly my biggest problem with making this list was most of the popular ones or the ones that are highly rated. I had just never seen because I don't know. Apparently, this isn't a theme I dive into. Um, but I mean, obviously, its reputation precedes it, so I can see where you're coming from. My number five is kind of a twist. It's more so focusing on the theme of desperation to stay famous and regain your fame, and that's "Singing in the Rain,"
Woo!
which takes a much lighthearted, more lighthearted approach toward the theme than pretty much everything else on my list. And everything else I've seen, which kind of sets it apart in a good and bad way. I don't think it hits that theme as home as some of the ones on this list, and some movies after it, and maybe before it. But I like the spirit of it. It's just got so much heart and love for films. Obviously, it's about the transition between silent movies to talkies, and so just the fear of the unknown, but taking it on its chin and just trying to adapt. Makes it great, and it's the movie that made me actually respect musicals and give the genre a chance. So I think it gets a lot of credit there as well. So it's my number five.
Hell yeah. Love that movie. One of my favorite musicals. I didn't consider it for this list, so that's awesome. Um, Happy it was included. My number four is not very lighthearted at all. Uh, it'll put some people to sleep. It'll put some people into a state of confusion. It'll put some people. Uh, it'll make some people happy, and it made me pretty happy. I'm talking about the Neon Demon. Um, one of the more, I guess, not controversial, but um, it's Nicholas Winding Refn, especially after Drive, has since made a lot of movies and even a TV show that people are like pretty divided on, and
Hmm.
I think that's because they're even bigger, bolder, more interesting swings than Drive, and so I admire him that much more for that. Neon Demon, of course, follows Elle Fanning as a model, and it's more about like I don't know if it's about fame as much as it is about beauty, uh,
Hmm.
but these characters do really crazy things to stay famous, to be famous, and to be well respected and well regarded and seen as beautiful in the Neon Demon. And yeah, I think beauty is an interesting aspect of fame and how we define it, how we standardize it. I think
Hmm.
the movie lightly touches on all of those things and does so in a way that even if it's not for everybody, it still makes me think about that aspect of fame, and so I include it on my list.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Did not make my list, but I'm glad to see its inclusion. Because I was lukewarm with it as well, but I think you have a point where it makes you think, and I think that's a feat for films, honestly. Like if you could do that, like it's hard to make movies, so that's all you really got to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do have a lot of respect for it. My number four is a little more true to the story of Pearl and the story of this universe in more ways than one because it's Boogie Nights. It's the rise and fall of
Ooh.
Dirk Diggler. Um, yeah, I love that it's about his rise as an actor in the pornography world, and it just shows all the red flags of fame the entire time until it catches up with him. Really vilifies the industry, and it shows how lucrative but polluted with toxicity it is, and kind of always has been. Um, and probably always will be on some level, unfortunately. And so just seeing that through the eyes of like a rising star who has a pretty fast track to fame, and just seeing him deal with grabbing it, but also seeing it tear down literally everybody around him, and he's still the desire persists because it's that intoxicating to him and so many others. And so I think um, it's great, and it hits this theme great. It's one of my favorite PTA films, and so I had to include it here.
Hell yeah. I think that was my first PTA film.
Hmm.
Um,
It might have
uh,
been mine too, actually.
yeah, super, super good. Definitely worth making my list. I'm sad I didn't think about it, but yeah, I love Boogie Nights.
Mhm.
One of the most stacked casts too that he's ever put together.
Yeah. And anybody's put together, honestly. Like,
Hmm.
just you'll just be watching and be like, is that Don Cheadle? Where is he here?
So good. My number three is also a stacked cast, and it's also about celebrity. It's not about porn, but it is also about filmmaking. It's Tropic Thunder.
Mm,
I
hell
love
yeah.
Tropic Thunder. It's one of my favorite comedic films of all time. Maybe in my personal top 10. Um, and yeah, we have three very, very different movie stars trying to save their careers with a super serious Vietnam movie that is so serious that they have to actually go to the jungle and try to survive real guns, real bullets, real landmines, real bombs, and yeah, the results are absolutely hilarious. Uh, uh, Robert Downey Jr. gives one of the best performances of all time as an Australian uh, who takes his role as a black sergeant so seriously that he changes the color of his own skin and starts talking like a black dude. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's one of those movies that's like so perfect because like it would never get made today,
Mhm.
and I love that it exists so much, and that people still love it even though it's controversial, and it was controversial at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it opens with a bunch of fake movie trailers too, so you can see like where their career started before the movie,
Mhm.
and yeah, you get to see these horribly stupid celebrities try to survive a real world uh, uh, danger situation, and it is hilarious.
Yeah. I'm bummed this one didn't cross my mind for this topic because I love this movie. I don't even think I saw it until I watched it with you, but I've watched it a couple times since because
Yeah.
it's fucking hilarious, man. I love when they're just so ballsy with their offensiveness and just like just they know that what they're doing is wrong, but I'm glad they did it because like you said, it wouldn't be made today, and we wouldn't have the laughs we have today, and it pretty much universally gets like a pass for its offensiveness. It's like Airplane, like it's of its time and people respect it, and it was done with the respect of comedy as a genre that it works. It just works. I love it.
Totally. Did you hear about Jamie Foxx's movie with Robert Downey Jr.?
No, no, I didn't.
Apparently, he casted Robert Downey Jr. to play a Mexican, and it's for Netflix, but it's on the shelf right now because they don't
Yeah,
want to put it in. But
that's great.
the movie is made, like it's still like they
Yeah.
did it. So I'm like holding out, like hopefully they put it out soon. But oh my
Yeah.
god, I'm so
Oh
excited.
man. Yeah, I really hope that gets seen. I'll keep an eye out. Number three for me is it. I think it's better than my number two. Well, actually, maybe not. It might be tied for for how much I like it with my number two, but it has a lot less to do with the theme. It's more of the desire for perfection, and in that perfection, you gain the respect and fame in your field, and that's Whiplash,
Mm.
a movie that we've talked about plenty of times on this podcast, but never. I don't think we've done a full review of it. Um, but
No.
yeah, just the obsessiveness of the main protag and antagonist is just dripping throughout the film in a borderline scary way. And I think it's a good look into the psyche of people who are characters that show up in pretty much every movie we've mentioned. Just the consumption of this desire, and how far it can take, sabotaging personal relationships, professional relationships, mental health, physical health, everything. Just risking it all for what you want the most. And I think this kind of epitomizes that aspect of the characters that show up in these types of themes. They even make fun of how not famous jazz drummers are in the movie, so it's less to do with fame and more to do with perfection and respect. But I still think it hits a lot of the same qualities that we're talking about here.
I agree. I agree. And they do mention like the next Charlie Parker and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's the fifth time Whiplash has been on your list.
probably, and it should be retired.
No, no, it's great. We should just keep making lists where you're able to work with Flash
Yeah.
in.
Next week is gonna be top five drummers in movies.
Top 5 shots of blood in water.
Top 5 chair throwing scenes.
All right. My number 2 is Mulholland Drive. This movie kind of is about Hollywood as a whole and about dreams of Hollywood and Hollywood dreams and what those mean.
Hmm.
It's also about a lot of other things, and I think David Lynch's masterpiece. I think a lot of the stuff that he was working on in the '80s and the '90s kind of all came together in Mulholland Drive in a really beautiful, in a really soulful, a really funny and terrifying and really really dreadful and magical way. And I think that kind of is Hollywood, and that is the person's the artist's uh, dream. That's kind of what happens when the artist dreams of Hollywood. You know, you hit all of those things. You run into all of those everything that we've talked about here so far about fame. And it's a wonderful Naomi Watts performance. And definitely worth seeing with multiple people or just by yourself if you're chilling. Um, and yeah, Mulholland Drive, definitely one to meditate on fame in a weird way.
Yeah. I almost included this, but this was one of the yeah, Jared's definitely gonna have it on his list, so
Yeah.
I won't take it from him. He's a bigger Lynch fan than I, so it would just be disrespectful, honestly. And so I'm glad you did because I would have felt real shitty if it wasn't in there.
Right.
Um, my number two, uh, I I have two films at number two purely because I didn't want to add two films from the same people on this list. So there's a real one and then an honorable mention, and
Okay.
that is Pop Star and Hot Rod. But I think Pop Star is the more obvious example of it. Um,
Yeah.
which has also probably showed up on my list as many times as Whiplash. Both of these probably have. But I just love the ability to lampoon fame and celebrity culture. It's just in the Lonely Island crew's bones, I guess, because Pop Star is one of the greatest examples of this, and people's desire to be famous and desire to have all this celebrity and money and power in their industry, and how stupid it is and how the stupid lengths they go to desperately hold on to it, when all you have to do is be yourself. But but I just love it. It's hilarious. It deserves more recognition, and I will continue to bring up Pop Star and Hot Rod for that matter, as many times as I can.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I knew at least one of them was going to be on your list, so I excluded both of them. I did not expect you to put both of them, and so I'm very,
Surprise.
very happy that they're on there. Um, my number one, you can see the corner of it in my on my wall. It's the French poster for Perfect Blue right here, right here. Um, Perfect Blue is it's the first feature film by Satoshi Kon. I've talked about how much I love him as a filmmaker several times on this podcast, and um, yeah, this is a thriller about a kind of a J-pop star who gets this chance to become an actress and become a real movie star, and meanwhile there's a deformed stalker following her every move. And also, she sees herself doing weird things. And that's kind of the opening of this movie. This movie is so it had such an effect on audiences and on the film community that Darren Aronofsky bought the rights to it and ripped it off for Black Swan. Um, that's how much he liked the movie, that he stole it. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
You borrowed it.
he borrowed it. He rented it. Um, no, he no, Black Swan's pretty good. But
Mhm.
Perfect Blue is perfect. It's a rare like modern Hitchcockian thriller that like makes you forget that Hitchcock exists. It's so good.
Mhm.
It's so good. It's pretty rated R. It's got some heavy stuff in there. Some very disturbing stuff. I remember seeing this for the first time by myself, and I had to like take a shower after watching it. Um, but the next time I saw it with an audience in the Alamo Draft House in San Francisco, and that was just it was the best, man. Seeing an animated film on 35 millimeter was, whew. Um, yeah, Perfect Blue, my number one. Very interesting look at how fame can destroy someone's personality and
Mhm.
fracture someone's consciousness.
Hell yeah. I've been meaning to dive into Satoshi Kon's filmography further after our review, but I haven't. And this might be the next one watch because you've mentioned it to me before, and I know you love it a lot, and so it's if it passes the Jared test, I'll probably enjoy it. So um, might try to get to it this week. In fact,
Ooh.
my number one is a TV show because I'm a filthy little cheating slut.
Why did I know you
my
were gonna say slut?
just because it felt grimy enough. Yeah, I was struggling, but I think this is one of, if not my favorite depictions of fame, and the struggle to regain your fame after you've fallen off and lost respect for yourself. People have lost respect for you, and you've struggled with everything that you could struggle with after being a has been in Hollywood, and that's BoJack Horseman.
Ooh.
I absolutely adore this show. I think it's one of the heaviest shows I've ever seen. Like, it's how like if you're binging Black Mirror after like two episodes, you like are just in a bad place mentally.
Yeah.
This is like one episode, and you're like you feel the weight of everything. Every time. So it's a tough one to get through mentally, but so worth it. The titular character deals with a lot of themes that we've seen before. Birdman jumps to mind. The theme of just used to have it all, but kind of now you're being forgotten, and he desperately wants it back, but his mental health, his struggles with addiction, personal relationships, and just his reputation are all just keeping him in the way. There's side characters that are like child stars that are dealing with that now. There's rising stars. You get Mr. Peanut Butter, who is just unwaveringly confident and famous in everything he puts his paws on. And it's just great. It hits every aspect of Hollywood and how just grimy and gritty it is, while giving you plenty of characters to care about and care about real deeply. And so I love it. I think it's one of my favorite animated shows or one of my favorite shows of all time. So it's my number one.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. The way you were saying it, I was like, oh, is he going to talk about Atlanta? It's like, oh, I forgot he loves BoJack Horseman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
surprise. I did think about putting Atlanta, but I was like, I can't cheat but two shows. We didn't agree on shows
Yeah.
beforehand.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, great choice. I've seen bits and pieces of BoJack Horseman. I've never watched it all the way through. I definitely want to. After I'm done with Atlanta and Rings of Power, I'm going to take a break from new TV and
Mhm.
just kind of coast with whatever TV show comes to mind, and watch more old movies because it's not healthy trying to keep up with new TV.
Yeah.
So much of it, so much of it.
It is tough.
But yeah, definitely you should check that out. I need to
Mhm.
keep that on my watch list.
Yeah, I'd keep it high personally, but maybe don't if you got other stuff. I just finally got around to watching Better Call Saul after being a Breaking Bad nerd for a while, so I'm still playing catch up on TV shows. Yeah,
For sure, for sure. Shall we move on to Pearl?
I think we shall. But before we do,
Ooh.
it's probably the return. I don't know. I avoided. I just listened to your top fives because I didn't want to get any spoilers. So I don't think you've been doing this, but maybe you have. It's Jared Reed's poorly written reviews of movies that we're watching because it's funny and it makes him laugh and stuff.
Woo!
Wowie zowie. I got a long one and I trimmed it down already. Um, this one is from Polar Rigsby, who gave it a 3 out of 10.
Mm.
Um, they said Bipolar Maniac was the title. And this one does include spoilers. This whole podcast includes spoilers. So they start now. Sorry. I hate to do it to you. Um, their review goes a lot like this. This movie is basically about a mentally ill girl. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 of screwed up, she's around an 85. This is hyper fantasy depiction of bipolar disease mixed in with psychopathic behavior or sociopath. I don't know. Plus, she's schizophrenic and a homicidal maniac. She's talking to pictures, asking why they're looking at her, and yelling at scarecrows. She's a loony bin. She basically belongs in an insane asylum. The movie starts off with her having delusions of grandeur of becoming a big dancer in Hollywood or on Broadway. Then she kills a duck. That was the animal on her parents' farm for no reason except to show the viewer she's nuttier than a fruitcake. 1 minute she's happy, and next she's killing animals and killing people and plotting on killing her parents. My mom was bipolar, and she acted just like this girl Pearl when she was off her meds. Except my mom never tried to kill me or anybody else and never actually killed anybody. Back to the review. She dry humps a scarecrow in the middle of a field and keeps telling pictures and animals throughout the movie. What are you looking at? This is an embarrassing movie. There's nothing creative or groundbreaking about it. I watched it once, won't watch it again. It's a little better than X, which I believe to be trash. The plot is simple. It's basically about a bipolar homicidal psychopath who lives in her own little screwed up world. She's a Looney Tune. This movie is set in 1918, so obviously there's no medicine or insane asylums to put her in. I don't know, were there insane asylums back then? Anyways, everyone knows she's crazy, but she ends up killing everyone right before they can escape her. So, yeah, she's basically bipolar, schizophrenic, psychopathic, homicidal maniac.
It's a fun one.
It is. It's a
got
bit of a.
got got real personal. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
you're gonna put
the,
that in your thing, huh?
there weren't a lot of reviews, so I felt obligated to do the one where he's like, "Oh, my mom wanted to kill people." Anyways, she humps a scarecrow.
Yeah. I
Oh.
mean, I get it, but the movie's not trying to be realistic.
No.
It's a melodrama.
Hmm.
I think that's intentional. I think that's um, why I like this movie a lot better than X is because
Yeah.
he leaned into his the genre he's paying homage to more. So much so that um, it completely hypnotized me. I was fully
Hmm.
invested in the film, and I totally forgot that I was like not watching a Douglas Sirk movie. I was like, uh, I was like, cool, man. Like this is great. This is exactly what I wanted.
Hmm.
And Yeah, I remember seeing the teaser just because, I like Tyler Bates's music in X, and so even though I was kind of under, we'll talk a little bit about my feelings about X in a sec, but I stayed through the credits and I was listening to the music and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then the teaser for Pearl was in there, and like nobody told me about it. I
Hmm.
believe it was a secret when they produced it originally. And yeah, it's very very. I was like, okay, okay, because Pearl was my favorite aspect of X, and so I was intrigued. And then my brother told me like, yeah, you're gonna like Pearl way more than X. I was like, okay. And then Jared suggested Pearl or Barbarian, and I was like, let's do Pearl. And here we are, man. I'm
Hmm.
very 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 excited to talk about Pearl. And I have to go pee.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Me too.
Oh,
Fancy meeting you
it's the
here.
B reel.
Oh, it is. Oh, shit. Obligations.
Pod podcasting or podding? Let's say podcasting. All right. Sorry. Um, yeah. But yeah, I think another thing that shines in Pearl that also shined in X is Mia Goth's performance. I think it's
Hmm.
bold. I think it's beautiful. I think it's really, really disturbing. And yeah, this is a fantastic collaboration with Ty West. I hear she's doing a crazy movie with David Cronenberg next, and so I'm
Ooh.
very, very excited for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, super happy for her. Like as a fan of Mia Goth, like I'm very excited to see that her career has finally found a footing in a really interesting and really wonderful way. Um,
Hmm.
I, uh, I'm gonna refrain from any more details about my feelings, but I'll give Pearl an 8.8.
Mm.
Which is I think a massive jump from X, which I think was like a 6.2 for me.
Yeah. I also liked this one significantly more. I agree. I think leaning into the style that they choose, because it is a different style from X, um, but they commit fully to this. The Technicolor is gorgeous. The kind of uncanny valley performance Mia Goth gives is horrifying. And I love that we have another great daylight horror movie.
Yeah,
I love that. Um, yeah, I agree. I think Pearl and Maxine were the best parts of X. And I think that this movie makes X better retroactively because it kind of justifies it a little more, and it gives it a more fleshed out story. And so I think that having dogs are going crazy right now. I
It's
think
all
that
good.
having this contextualize X and then Maxine finish off the trilogy whenever that comes out makes this series way more exciting for me. I thought X was going to be like kind of just a throwaway film that I watched, enjoyed, but like was not blown away by. And the trilogy just makes it so much more exciting. Yeah, I think this is it's got good kills for a slasher esque film. It's got a lot of good psychological horror, and it fleshes out a horror antagonist that I liked, felt a lot of tragedy for, and craved more of. And I'm real happy that we got it. I'm real happy with the execution of it, honestly. I'll give this one an 8.7.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, man. Ty West, when teasing the film, described it as a demented Disney movie. And I definitely see that as well. I see a lot of
Yeah.
Douglas Sirk in the melodrama. I
Hmm.
definitely see the overt references to the Wizard of Oz, but
Yeah.
demented Disney movie works too because it's like, when you think about Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, it's all the same. Like, women who are great with animals and they dream of a bigger world,
Yeah.
and this one just takes so many hard left turns into like what is going on. And I love that about it.
Oh.
I love that about it. You mentioned the term daylight horror. What did you mean by that? What did you like about it especially?
I think it just fits the the style of the film a lot because it's very bright. Like obviously the colors are saturated to no end. Everything is like smiley and Disney. And then so just seeing like brutal gore and blood effects, and like actually seeing them. Like the one that comes to mind is the montage of her like cutting up the bodies and stuff.
Hmm.
Like just being able to actually see it with that like Technicolor glow was gorgeous, and it adds to the unsettling nature, and it makes her seem creepier. I feel like whenever we get nighttime slashers, it always has an air of like nefariousness and like kind of like sneaky and just like the foreboding nature of this unstoppable force. And then she just gives this like happy-go-lucky, unhinged attitude about it that I think works super well to just have her murdering in broad daylight.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think you nailed it. I also think another another side of it is Ty West's like playfulness as a filmmaker.
Hmm.
I could sense that sense of play in X, but in
Yeah.
here, I can really tell that he I think he misses a lot of those old melodramas the same way I do,
Hmm.
and I think like bringing us back to that and then adding like maggots and the crushed alligator embryos and really sweaty like grimy a really sweaty grimy old man who like is like crying and like can't move,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like it's always like um, yeah, it reminds you of those old movies that I grew up with and grew up loving. But it, like you said, like adding that Technicolor punch to the colors, like really just takes you to a whole other headspace. And I think that's why the movie kind of hypnotized me, and I forgot that I was watching like a franchise film.
Hmm.
I was just in the story. I was in the world that they built together. Definitely, definitely. Um,
Yeah.
we both loved Mia Goth's performance. Did you have any other notes about that, or Anything else you wanted to say about her?
She just steals the show, and I think it's obvious that because she has a writing credit in this, she's billed as executive producer as well, and so you can really feel her fingerprints more on this rather than like X or something. But it just shows like her range from X to this, and just like I don't know, she was just captivating in this. Like she has the star power that she thinks she has, but it's just so dark, and the when it switches on a head, I feel like few actors can pull off such a quick tonal shift the way that she does, but like keeping it feeling sinister in both the happiness and the horror. The barn scene with the projectionist jumps to mind, where she's like this happy, flirty girl, and even in that, you feel like the psychopathy behind her, and that you know that anything could just set her off. So you feel uneasy when she's happy, but you also kind of want her to be because I don't know, you're still rooting for her in a weird, fucked up way. I don't know. Just her performance was just so magnetic that it justifies the character's desire to be magnetic.
Yeah. It's interesting. Usually, when they do like origins of the monster, it's not
Hmm.
that great. Like,
Yeah.
um, Halloween comes to mind. You know, Friday the 13th is okay, but
Hmm.
I usually I like just having the monsters be evil, and I like just kind of having them be like monsters. But
Yeah.
what's I think what's interesting about X, or what was interesting to me about X was the split between Maxine and Pearl, and
Hmm.
uh, we kind of see that split happen, and in a metaphorical way, of course, but it's
Yeah.
still it was so yeah, it was just really interesting and fun. Um, I also think it's a compelling story. Like you see this protagonist kind of come full circle, and come to the realization that like she's not going to leave the farm, but it's okay, and it's what she wants, and
Hmm.
she has already done everything she can in her power to get to that goal, and she didn't reach it, but she's making the most of what she has. And what she has is horrible and terrifying and gross,
Yeah.
but it's it's still satisfying because it makes sense for the character. It makes sense for the world that they're in. To me, the only thing that didn't make sense is why Howard chooses to stay with her. Because I also thought
Yeah.
how I didn't think Howard was as interesting as Pearl in the first movie, but
Hmm.
I did want to know why Howard stayed with her. Besides just being an evil person himself, like um, I they don't give us much for Howard.
Yeah. They don't really give us anything for Howard. He's got like one line in the whole thing. And I do wish that they showed a little bit more. I do love the ending of her just like smiling
So
as the
good.
credits roll. But I do wish that we had like some more back and forth, or even in X, like a more justification. Because he says like, oh, she's got that special something. She's like our my special girl, but and that he hints to that she's capable of dark things, but that's it. That's like all we get out of him in X too. So I'm with you. I wish that we had more. But I am satisfied with how they fleshed out Pearl. Because in X, you care about Pearl. You feel for her. Like it's a sad story watching her like try on dresses and like just want to be beautiful and loved again. Obviously, you're not like a big fan of her just for what she does and how she takes it, but I'm so glad that the prequel focuses on her because it's what I would have wanted watching X had I known that it was coming out when I was watching it.
Hell yeah. What'd you think about her relationship with her mother and her father and all that stuff?
I like it. Apparently apparently the mom was the intimacy coordinator on X, which I think is cool. Um, but I think it's good. I think you really feel the weight of it in two scenes specifically, the audition scene and then when she lays in her dead mom's arms and like the lullaby happens. I think those justify the means. I think at times it felt a bit like angsty, and we get it. And I wanted them to kind of layer on more when they were just kind of hammering home the overprotective mom farm girl wants more out of life. Like they kind of just do that dynamic for a long time in the beginning, but I think they justify it eventually. And then with the dad, I loved it. I think the first time she tries to kill, it feels like a pity kill for him as much as it is like a freedom kill for her. She says like nobody should live like this. Like this isn't a way for either of us to go about life. And it doesn't seem like he wants to die, but she believes it, I think. And so I think that's an interesting dynamic. And I think she does have love for her father, but resentment for the position that he put her and her mom in. And she kind of blames him for that. And so I think there's a lot of dynamic relationships between them that I really liked. I'm hoping Maxine goes into her daddy issues after the reveal of like the preacher on TV being her father. And so I'm hoping we get that to tie in with the character of Maxine in this trilogy as well, because I think it was handled good and handled a lot better in this than what we got out of the first one.
Definitely. And I actually really like the final confrontation between Pearl and her mother in the film,
Hmm.
because it's like, oh shit, this is the antagonist, and I also feel for them, like, you
Yeah.
know, and Pearl even wisens up by the end. She realizes like what her mother was feeling, and grows to sympathize with her after she's already killed her, and
Hmm.
yeah, it just makes the tragedy hit that much harder. It makes the sickness of Pearl's existence that much more disturbing and more dreadful. I think on the rewatch, because I see all the pieces fit together after that, and
Yeah.
it just really really works really well.
Hmm.
Um, I also love that, as you see their relationship dissolve, the pig that her mother refuses gets more and more maggoty, more and more rotten,
Yeah.
and I love it so much. That maggoty pig is one of the best horror images in the whole movie. It's so
Absolutely.
gross and effective. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, Looking forward to filmmakers trying to copy maggots. I don't know
Hmm.
how else to say that, but yeah, very very good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, did you have any other notes? Or I guess we could talk about the projectionist, because the movie is like X. It is kind of talking about cinema, and
Hmm.
he's kind of the window through which the audience gets to see what the director's saying about cinema. What did you feel about him? How did you feel about the projectionist versus the film crew in X?
Yeah. I think he um, kind of represents the more like uh, grimy side of the industry and like in terms of like manipulation and stuff. Because in X, it feels like the film crew they all kind of set out to make something that they think is going to be revolutionary, whether it's we're going to make a lot of money with the director, or we're going to make something that has artistic promise with the DP. I think I think he kind of represents the after the fact, the like capitalizing on budding industries and finding new talent to join them. I don't think that he said as much as the film crew did, or was as interesting as the film crew. But I still liked his character, and I liked him playing off of Mia, and I think he held his own in the scenes. But he was one of the weaker points of the film for me personally.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that they didn't follow up on the porn movie that he shows her.
Yeah,
Like that didn't do anything. Like it just kind of was just like, okay, it's an X
yeah,
franchise film.
yeah.
I don't
And
know
she
though.
like shows tendencies toward being sexual like pretty early in the film, but then it just never pans out.
Yeah, maybe I should watch it again to see like if it fits better. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they were just kind of either referencing the first one or, um, like you said, trying to communicate that this guy is a grimy dude.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um, I do
You
find it.
mentioned.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. Go.
no, you. I insist.
I do find it interesting that I forgot that movies like that were allowed back then, um,
Hmm.
because censorship in the 40s I think changed it, and kind of cycled everything back. But yeah, it was a cool little time capsule.
Yeah, and apparently it's a real like stag film from that era too. Like it was just an
Right.
actual movie that came out, which is cool.
Crazy.
Um, you mentioned the music of X. What do you think of the music of Pearl? Because it's got a very obvious influence and place in building the world. Um, how was it executed?
I loved it. I think it's even better than the first one. Uh, it reminded me of, like I said before, a Douglas Sirk movie, like Imitation of Life. Like it really,
Mm,
it felt like I was watching that. And Tyler Bates, I think killed it. A lot of really wonderful orchestral moments, especially in the scene with the scarecrow. I was
mm-hmm.
not expecting that at all when I walked into the movie, and
Uh,
I'm really glad it paid off. I don't think there were any like overt musical references to Wizard of Oz, but
no.
it did kind of the music underneath that kind of gave like a really twisted Wizard of Oz feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
You also feel the Disneyified aspect of the film in, when she's talking to the animals and when she's and all that. And I love the dance number with the soldiers. I think that's one of my favorite scenes in the
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's so good. Very very reminiscent of all those like old wartimey things that they put together to cheer up the troops. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, very very good music. Even better than the first, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it rounds out the style beautifully too, especially because it's so loud and it's so in your face about being like that sweeping Disney chorus. Like um, it just is the bow on the present that is like the style of this film, and I think it was perfectly executed for what they were trying to do.
Definitely, definitely.
Mm.
Did you have any other notes about the movie? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Uh, I did. There are a few visual references to X that I think were worth mentioning that I only caught on to because I just rewatched X right before watching this. Um, the first shot of both films is like nearly identical. The
Oh
shot through
wow,
like the barn doors. In this one, it's moving. In X, it like starts halfway through and then moves in. Um, the obvious one is the big X on stage when
right,
she's going to her tryout. The projectionist's car is pushed in the exact same place as like the hippie in X that was like the victim before they got there.
Hmm.
And the when she goes and gets her dad's medicine, there's a guy, like a preacher guy, who has a sign on him that says, "I will not accept a life I do not deserve," which I was constantly repeated in X, and I thought that was a good tie-in as well.
Wow. I didn't even. Yeah, that's awesome. I should probably rewatch X now that I've seen this one.
Yeah, this one definitely gave me fonder memories of watching it, and I didn't dislike X. I just thought
Yeah.
it was like kind of a throwaway, like I mentioned. But I'm glad that it's a franchise because I'm real excited for the sequel now.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes them to make Maxine. Because I know they
Mhm.
made this one back to back. Like
Yeah.
he used the crew from Avatar: Way of Water was on break, and they would just happen to be in New Zealand at the same time. He's like, all right, let's make a sequel. And so they were able to produce, I think, both movies for less than 2 million,
Yeah, and
which
they shot them at like the same time, which
which
is
is
crazy.
props, man. So
Yeah.
so so insane.
Hmm.
Um, I also like that he edited the thing because I don't think uh I don't think someone that like you could just pull an editor out of nowhere that would do the weird mirror montage.
Yeah.
That was insane. It was
Yeah,
insane.
but I loved it. It paid off.
Yeah, yeah. Alrighty. Shall we do favorite scenes?
We shall, we shall. Would you like to go first?
Sure. Um, I like her. I like the dance number. I
Hmm.
like the scene with the scarecrow, and um, I liked her 7 minute monologue. I thought I only know it's 7 minutes our good friend of the show, Abby, wrote a review about it on his
Mm.
Instagram and said it was 7 minutes. So I have no way of verifying, but I'm just gonna say 7 minutes.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, it's a wonderful example of why Mia Goth is the main attraction and is the star that her character wants to be. Yeah, it's a brilliant monologue. It's a brilliant performance. I have a feeling
Hmm.
that that's one of the scenes that she had a hand in writing for sure. Yeah, those are my
Yeah,
favorite.
that monologue was probably my favorite because it just, I don't know, it shows just her talent, just holding on her, no cutting, like just raw Mia Goth. And I loved it, and it was unsettling as hell. Um, I so that was definitely one of my favorites. I also really liked the audition, just because it's so insane, and you get to go inside her head in a nice and surreal way. But just the second she like snaps into the smile and starts going, like it's gonna be kind of off the rails. Um, so that was amazing as well. We mentioned the mirror montage, which I think happens under the mom's lullaby, doesn't it? Like when she's like cuddling up with her dead mom,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah. So that I loved. I think it was wild and out there, and we got some gore that I think was missing earlier in the film with some of the kills. So it was nice that they actually gave us what we wanted with that. And then her turning on the projectionist in the barn, just from showing her all the animals to when she first says like, "Oh, what did you see?" Like it's just such a hard shift and so creepy, and you know exactly what's gonna happen. Um, and I loved it. I think it was fantastic. I love the connections to her killing the nerdy DP guy in X because it's in a car, it's in the same spot. And so I think that it kind of justified that kill a lot too. Um, and yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Um, and it it's a good tie into Pearl's own death too, because
Mhm.
her head gets crushed by that car, right?
Yeah.
That's how yeah. So
Yeah.
good, dude. So good.
Yup.
Alrighty. Well, I don't know if X is streaming anywhere, but you can certainly still
Think it
watch
is.
Pearl in theaters. Interesting choice to not watch it before watching this.
Yeah.
But
It's a prequel. I guess you don't have to.
but yeah, definitely go watch and rewatch Pearl. It's worth your time.
Mhm.
Dude, Martin Scorsese endorsed the film, like he was he went out of his way to watch it and post about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's 100% worth your time. If you're a fan of horror and you want something a little bit different, go check it out. Anything else
Yeah.
you want to leave the people with, Jared?
Hell no. I'm done talking to him.
All right. We love you. Goodbye.
Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.